Drakos, if you ever need a teammate, I would call everyone you know, but then after that, I would call me.
Okay.
Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 3, where myself, Gabriel, that money guy, and Drakos take a little bit of a look into the world of League of Legends and how it compares to the world of finances. You know, mixing my world and Drakos' world together. I would love to spend the next hour talking about super minions, but I'm not going to do that, as obsessed with them as I am right now. But Drakos, what I do want to ask you a little bit about is the aspect of teamwork in the game, because I know it's a 5v5, but we've spent a lot of time talking about the individual side of League of Legends. How important is teamwork?
When we talk about teamwork in League of Legends, there are some things that are kind of done and solved for you, and there are some things, like any other teamwork experience in life, that you're kind of going to have to figure out for yourself on the way. And so one of those things is roles. Very fortunate that when you queue up for a game of League of Legends, when you want to play, it's predetermined and you can elect to pick whatever role you'd like, where you're going to play on the map. That said, it's really only one part of the teamwork puzzle. The other side is, which character are you going to play? What is your role going to be in the context of the team? Because while there are certain expectations, depending on where you go, what that role will look like. One of the big issues with teamwork in League of Legends oftentimes is that everybody wants to play something similar. And if nobody is willing to budge, you end up in situations where kind of the team composition or the 5 players that you're bringing in to that game aren't really set up for success. You can't walk into a game of football with 5 goalies. It's just not gonna work. And if everyone wants to just play defense, well, your football team's not going to be very good, right? So you need to round it out and kind of make sure you have all your positions covered. But that's one of the big friction points of League of Legends is what you want to do and what all the 4 other people on your team want to do aren't always going to line up to give you that perfect recipe for success. Even if that's solved and you get the perfect role, the other thing is yeah, you can tell your friends, yeah, I want to be the goalie. And then they see you play goalie and they go, well, we'd really like it if you'd like stay back in the net. And you're like, no, I'm going to play really far forward. That's my strategy. Well, that's going to cause problems, right? And that's the struggle of League of Legends is there are characters that by design are quote unquote goalies, let's call them supports, that are supposed to play really far up. And so depending on who you are and how you like to play the game, you might want a particular kind of goalie, and that might not line up for the other people you're playing with.
Thank you so much for using the word goalies, because you know that football works perfectly in my brain, and you did me such a favor there by using that terminology. Even though I know what a Baron Nashor is, the goalie helped tremendously. And I could not agree more when it comes to the whole aspect of working as a team. I mean, like, how many people have been in a work environment where there's been that one person that said, I don't care about what the team want or what they blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go and, play how I want to play. I'm going to push for myself forward. And whilst that might work in the short term, I have never, ever seen that work in the long term. And I think it's just an absolutely fundamental approach. And I think even on the flip side, if we are going to talk about finances, a lot of the time, later in life as you move forward, you need to learn to not only look after your own finances, but look after the finances of your friends, of your family, of the person you're in a relationship with. This is kind of a really fundamental aspect of understanding how to manage money. And you can't shy away from those conversations. You can't shy away from teamwork and just hope and pray that everything's, like you said, you can't just go into a game and be like, yeah, everything's going to be fine. I'll just do what I want. And I'm sure everything will fit perfectly. Unfortunately, the world just doesn't work like that. And I know so many scenarios and situations where people, go into relationships or, take that leap, but aligned to finances. And whilst, I'm happy to admit that money is not the most important thing in life, and, there are so many other things that should be held as a priority, it's naive to ignore it because it does play its role. So one thing that I like to say is, as uncomfortable as it can be, because money is an uncomfortable topic, it's easier to approach it openly. So what I did and what I do in my own life is, rather than say, all right, it's Thursday, it's time to talk about money, what we do is we put it in the calendar. It's set. We know when that conversation is going to be. Just once a month, half an hour, just have a little chat. What happened this month? What's going to go on next month? What can we do to shift our budget, etc.? Because we're playing this together as a team. That awareness obviously makes us more comfortable to approach the situation, the conversation, because we know it's when it's going to happen. And you know what? it just helps us cross the barrier of an uncomfortable topic in the first place. And it's really fundamental. Now, I'm not saying that once a month you and the boys need to plan your half-an-hour chat for for League of Legends. Probably a little bit weird, but I suppose even like that 30 seconds, right, where you just get that conversation out the way, you get the uncomfortable part out of the way, where two of you want the same position, and all of a sudden, like, you figure it out. It's so much easier than just going into these things absolutely blind.
Yeah, and I think that's I mean, the thing you're talking about, there's so many people who play this game, whether it's with their friends or otherwise, who will enter Champion Select, which is kind of the part after you've selected your role when you're deciding which specific character you want to play, who will say, "Hey, I would really like to play this, but I'm willing to adjust to this or that." And kind of by being the sort of person who's willing to take that brunt of that work and do that little bit of extra effort to make sure that you're starting that conversation proactively.
What else do I need to, be concerned about, be wary of during the game?
When we look at a lot of the clips that we've shown you so far, one thing that maybe hasn't been clear is that League of Legends is a game where you play without perfect information. So, for example, chess, right? You can see all potential moves at all times. That's a game you get to play with perfect information. Poker is a game where there's a certain amount of, you kind of need to guess. You need to know what the odds are. You need to understand really what they could have. And it's a similar situation in League of Legends because parts of the map that you don't have a character in are just going to be dark to you. It's kind of just a binary. You either have vision or you don't. So in a circle around your character, a portion of the map will be illuminated, and then everything beyond that circle, what your character can see, is just dark. You can't see anything. So there can be an enemy you can see right now on a clip in the darkness. You couldn't actually see if there was an enemy there in those slightly grayed out areas. And so if you don't have a ward there, you're walking in and there could just be a scary wolf or a monster around the corner that just comes out and starts hitting you. And for a lot of characters, that's about the worst thing that could possibly happen, is to spot someone just out of vision coming around to get you in trouble.
I mean, you're literally talking about this idea of like vision. Yeah, you go somewhere and you can see a little bit further ahead than, normally another character might be able to. That is literally all that budgeting is meant to do for you. It's meant to give you a bit of foresight so that you can kind of plan ahead in time. You're just not going into things blindly. You're not living 1 month to the next month, paycheck to paycheck. It's almost like blind living. It's going into that spooky corner and a wolf jumps out of you, that extra bill jumps out of you, and you just don't know how to deal with it because you weren't prepared. You didn't see it coming. That is all that budgeting is meant to do for you, and it's quite literally a superpower. And then there's budgeting forward, but there's also budgeting backwards. So one of the first steps I ever tell people to do with their money, like the first most basic thing, is go into your bank account, however many you have, and just look at the last 3 months of what left and where it went. It's just this idea that it's so important to just look in the first place, and it's looking backwards is what gives you quick wins. Looking forward is what prepares you and makes sure that you don't get caught off guard in the first place.
It's very much what wards are about, is kind of preparing you, giving you as much information as possible to make good decisions, setting you up for the future.
I feel like at this point, it would be silly for me to not bring in the term emergency funds, because I kind of told you about like being aware of the risks that are coming, but a lot of people will be like, okay, I'm aware of this bad thing that's on its way, but how do I actually deal with it? How do I actually get over that hurdle? So the concept of an emergency fund is putting away traditionally 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in a pot, and it literally sits there and it covers you for the time that things jump out of the darkness at you. That time your friend messages you during League of Legends and says someone just wandered into the dark, they're probably heading your way. So you build this away. For a lot of people, 3 to 6 months sounds a bit excessive, so start with 1 month and work your way up. And that money is literally there as your security. It's there in case, I don't know, your car breaks down and you all of a sudden you need that money. You need something to be able to back yourself up. I would feel a bit harsh if I didn't like give the audience something to actually help fix themselves. And emergency funds is like the backbone of your finances. It's the backbone of your budgeting. And once you've built that, not only will you have money, but you'll also feel psychologically just so much more safe and calm, because you know that if that bad thing happens, you are able to deal with it.
That, I mean, it's such an important thing, that psychological safety. And I feel so silly now comparing it to the importance of this real life psychological safety to this in-game psychological safety. But that's a concept that occurs in League of Legends too, whether it's in team play, but generally anytime you're fighting 2 characters, right? Every time you use, let's say, a spell, you cast a fireball, there's a certain amount of time before you can do that again. And to compare it to budgets, right? Like you have a certain amount of money set aside, you use that once per month, you get your paycheck, that money kind of more or less resets in a budget. And it's similar in League of Legends. If you use all your fireballs, right? You're a sitting duck for anything that could come out your way. And in your case, it was a surprise bill. But in the case of League of Legends, maybe it's, that wolf guy from the jungle. But I think it's a very apt comparison.
I love throwing terms at you during this, so I'm gonna throw another one at you that's just in my mind because to me it sounds like a dance move. What is gank? Can you call it ganking or is it just gank?
Yeah, ganking. It's
Oh,
basically
ganking. Okay,
when
cool.
yeah. So it's basically when you leave the portion of the map that you're supposed to be on to go support someone else. You are like, if you are going into their space, their lane, you are ganking their lane. You are kind of like an uninvited or invited if you're doing it for an ally, an invited guest to kind of back them up, to show up. And we talked earlier about the risks and the value of kind of placing these wards and getting this information. And that's kind of one of the big risks, positive or negative. Positive if it's going to be helping you out, right? And someone is coming to your lane to support you. Negative if someone unexpected shows up when you've maybe used too many of your spells or you're not in a very safe position. This can really cause a lot of damage, can put you at a big disadvantage, take you away from those minions and that gold that you've been working so hard to accrue, send you back to shop before you have enough money to buy those perfect things. So it can be a gank can be a great thing for you if it's affecting the enemy, but a really bad thing if it's something that's happening to you.
So like someone comes in being ganked, you're in a vulnerable situation, right? And then you're at a disadvantage because it's like 2-on-1, right? Am
Yep.
I
Yep.
okay, cool.
100%.
So I suppose it's like the opposite of an emergency fund. It's like something unexpected happening and you not being prepared for it. Or it's even worse than that. It's like you finding yourself in a negative situation that potentially you might have even been able to prepare for a little bit with a bit more ward, a bit more vision. You might have seen it coming.
You're doing so good. I'm so proud.
Thank you. I've come so far.
I say mission accomplished thus far. And I think it's cool that we consistently come back to this concept of like, how you can avoid and how you can mitigate risk. And I think that one of the things that I wanted to talk about in context of vision is oftentimes, while it's easy to say, hey, my teammate can place that ward, or hey, someone should have let me know this thing is coming, because League is a team game, right? And there's certain things your teammates can do for you. When you talk about getting better at League, this is something I'd love to stress for people at home, and I wonder how much it compares for you in your experience with personal finances. You really want to look at yourself first and kind of what you're doing first, because as much as it is a team game, you can't control all these other factors, all these other variables, these other people in the game. You only have so much control over yourself.
It draws so many parallels to the world of finance. I mean, it draws so many parallels just to the world of like being a better person and self-development and being able to look inwardly other than trying to just blame others for your problems. Of course, there are scenarios where, someone else is at fault, but the only thing you can really do is what's in your own control. So one of my absolute favorite things to say when someone says to me, what's the best thing to invest into? What should I buy that's going to make me rich in 10 years? And I look at them and I laugh because there's no secret recipe. If anyone had an answer for that question, they would be rich themselves, right? Or like everyone would be rich if it was that easy to just turn things around. But when someone genuinely has asked me, like, what is genuinely the best thing to invest into? I say, invest into yourself. Remove things like, I don't know, the stock market or crypto, all of these buzzwords that people just want to throw money into and they just want to get returns out of something they're putting their money into. Or as I say to people, like, investing in yourself can yield some of the best returns that you can ever expect. Literally, episode 1, we were talking about getting a raise at work, yeah? If you invest in yourself, spend a little bit more time learning a skill, learning a tool, learning something that will allow you to go up for that promotion and move forward in work, that's immediately extra income, and looking at things that way. If you teach yourself something that ends up being a side hustle, that ends up building you a business because it was all about that self-investment that you put in yourself in terms of time, in terms of effort, in terms of education, that is genuinely where I go with in terms of like, what is the best investment?
I think it's one of the things about League and improving in anything, right, is that it's very similar to improving in anything in life. And that's one of the big things is if you're only comparing yourself to, if it's music and you're comparing yourself to some great, musician on the internet, it's like, well, you didn't see the process that they got better with. And it's probably the same true when you're trying to improve at personal finance. If you're only looking at the net result, if someone only looks at the result of that and doesn't appreciate kind of the process, which isn't always shown, isn't always looked into, you can be kind of led astray. That said, never hurts to if you're looking in the right places to learn. Like one of the things in League of Legends we always talk to people about is, hey, like there's nothing wrong with watching someone who is very good at the game and trying to take lessons from what they're doing.
We've covered so many things, like literally every aspect of the game. Whereas, like I said, I feel like I could just jump in and win straight away. You're going to tell me that I'm going to get absolutely destroyed for the next 6 months of playing, but that's fine. But there is one important topic that we haven't touched, and I can't believe that we almost closed out this episode without touching on it. And that is, how do you win League of Legends? Because I know how to kill a purple space one, but I don't know how to win the game.
Yeah, I can't believe we haven't talked. Okay, so there's a big structure at the end that's called the Nexus. And once you've destroyed a single inhibitor, although you can destroy more, there's 2 more towers in front of that. Once you destroy those 2 towers, the Nexus is open and you can just hit it. And once you hit it enough, you end the game. Now, of course, the steps to getting there, you're using your barons, you're using your levels, you're using your items, you're accruing all these advantages so that enough people on the enemy team are in their death timer, they're ticking down before they respawn, so you have enough time to hit this without getting hit back. It's very complicated to get there, but the nuts and bolts of finishing the game are very simple. You just hit that big structure, it blows up, and you win the game.
No financial comparison needed here, people. Like, at the end of the day, this is me becoming a League of Legends absolute fanboy. So I need to know how to win the game, and now I know how to win the game. I feel like I know absolutely everything that I could possibly know to get myself over the line. Drakos, if you ever need a teammate, I would call everyone you know. But then after that, call me.
Okay.
And I will come and I'll bring my super minions. Drakos, thank you so much for spending the time, being patient with me, learning everything that I need to learn. Is there anything in particular that you wanna throw at people, remind them before they dive into either their own personal finances or League of Legends?
The one thing I'll say, we talked a lot about teamwork today, and I hope that you'll echo the same sentiment, but I would love to hear if you have a different take, is a lot of this stuff, League of Legends can be very hard. I think personal finance can be very hard for some people, myself included. It's never bad to ask for help, just because it's ultimately your finances, or in this case, League of Legends, it's your game and your character, whoever you're playing. Like, you can ask for help. You can ask for advice on how to get better. Obviously, you want to get it from a reputable source, people you can trust, but people like you out there putting out great information are a good example of, teaching people, giving that information out, offering that information for free to people so that they can learn. Like, there's no shame in getting that information. There's no shame in asking for help along the way, anytime you're struggling, whether it's, I think, League of Legends, personal finance, or anything else.
Drakos, that's a brilliant lesson to take away. I think the last thing that I personally want to leave people with is, well, theoretically, it would be about super minions, but I'm going to move away from that and move back into finances for just a second. And that is, you just need to start. You just need to start learning something somewhere. Read a book, become a bit more interested in your savings accounts and finding the best one. Just take one step, then take the next step. Ultimately, it is hard. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot that goes on, and it's something that you have to be constantly switched on for. So don't think about it too far ahead. Just do one thing at a time, and I promise you, you will become better with your personal finances every single day. And guess what? You've pretty much taken the first step, because you've watched episode 3 of financial comparisons being compared to League of Legends. We've tricked you into learning. You're welcome.
3 steps, someone argued. You've taken 3 steps. So good job. You've watched 3 episodes. 3 baby steps combining into one single normal step. Well done.
Drakos, I think it's time we play League of Legends. Should we do it?
Let's do it.